On behalf of Baker Tilly and Evergreen, I'd like to welcome you to our on-demand webinar on the Energy Community Bonus feature of the Inflation Reduction Act. I encourage you to watch this video in its entirety and use the chapter navigation on the progress bar below to jump to relevant sections if you need to. Why should you care about energy communities and why is it relevant to your project? For those citing a clean energy project and are interested in pursuing tax credits through the Inflation Reduction Act, it's very important to understand what an energy community is, because locating your project in an energy community can significantly increase the tax credit value that you can get for your project. I'm Gideon Gradman, and I help lead the Energy and Infrastructure Group at Baker Tilly. And I'm joined today by Ben Dixon and Michael Leggett from Ever.green. As a top 10 accounting and advisory firm, Baker Tilly is experienced in helping clients navigate complex tax credit opportunities like those within the Inflation Reduction Act. Evergreen is our collaboration partner, helping to make the process of buying and selling tax credits more simple and straightforward. And today we're going to go and review Evergreen's new map that helps to simplify eligibility for an energy community. Today, we'll talk through some basics of the Inflation Reduction Act and walk through two examples of how to maximize your tax credit value. We will spend time talking about what defines an energy community and how projects can establish eligibility. Finally, we'll take a look at the mapping tool developed by Evergreen, which provides a simple way to identify sites that may qualify as being located in an energy community, and we'll discuss the Evergreen Marketplace, which will provide a place for companies to buy and sell tax credits. First, let's talk about some of the basics of the Inflation Reduction Act. This legislation, which was passed in 2022, includes tax credits for more than 70 separate energy property types. So the key question is, what do we mean by a tax credit? A credit directly offsets federal tax liability and can be significant, potentially up to half of eligible project costs. Inflation Reduction Act is unique because it enables both taxpayers and non-tax-paying entities to take advantage of credits, not just those with tax liability. Under the Inflation Reduction Act, credits can be used to offset your own federal tax liability, or they can be sold and transferred to another taxpayer, which is where our friends at Evergreen come in. It also allows tax-exempt owners to receive direct payments from the IRS. So nearly all eligible projects can benefit from the Inflation Reduction Act. Let's go into an example of how credit value is determined under the new framework that was established in the Inflation Reduction Act. This example relates to an investment tax credit. Let's say a solar project in a new community, but note that there are many property types with available credits, and we'll include detail on all of those in our resources as part of this webinar. So this solar project example is eligible for a base credit of 6%. That 6% can be multiplied and increased by meeting certain requirements. You can see here that if a project meets the prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements under the Inflation Reduction Act, the credit is multiplied by 5 times. So a 6% base credit can be multiplied to be a 30% credit if the prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements are met. Let's say your project also has domestic content requirements and is located in an energy community. Both of those would qualify for an additional 10% on top of the 30% credit. Suddenly, you're looking at a tax credit that could be worth up to 50% of the project's eligible costs, simply by meeting the prevailing wage requirements, meeting the domestic content requirements, and being located in an energy community, which is significant, and which is why it is so important to evaluate each of these bonus criteria and determine if your energy project is in an energy community. For example, $1 million solar project, which might get a 30% tax credit, will get $300,000 in tax credits against your federal taxes owed. And if that same $1 million solar project is also located in an energy community, it would get an additional 10% or an additional $100,000 to be applied towards your federal taxes. I won't go into it today, but projects also qualify for environmental justice and low-income community bonuses for solar and wind, and also may be affected by the use of tax-exempt funding. These are areas to better understand as you calculate your potential credit value for a project. Let's also quickly look at how the bonus features work for a production tax credit. In our example for a solar project, the owner of a project has a choice to take either an investment tax credit or a production tax credit, depending on the economic situation of a project. Again, those meeting the prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements will receive a 5 times bonus on the base credit for a production tax credit. If a project meets the prevailing wage and apprenticeship requirements and also may meet the domestic content requirements and is located in an energy community, you would have a significant impact on its total production tax credit. You would have a base credit per kilowatt hour, and that would be increased by 10% for domestic content compliance, and also increased another 10% if that project is located within an energy community. This credit is earned over 10 years based on the energy it produces. The math here is quite simple, but certifying projects to ensure that they meet these criteria is quite complex. Our team at Baker Tilly specializes in helping clients navigate that complexity. And luckily, the energy community piece has been simplified by our collaboration partner, Ever.green. With the map that they've developed, you can research sites across the US to identify locations that may qualify as being within an energy community. I'll turn it over to Ben and Michael from Ever.green to give a quick overview of what an energy community is and how you could take advantage of the map.
Thanks, Gideon. So, quickly, what is an energy community? As Gideon referenced, we've developed an interactive mapping tool. So if you don't really want to know the details, you don't have to. You can check our map and it will apply the latest guidance to your sites. It should be noted here in May 2023 that new guidance is still being released. So if you take that route, please do check in regularly. If you do want to get into the details, however, an energy community is an area that meets one of 3 tests. It's either a brownfield site, it's a census tract, or a census tract adjoining a census tract, where a coal mine or coal plant has recently been closed, or it's an area where significant fossil fuel activity has been present since 2010, and where the unemployment rate was higher than the national average for the previous year. This last test is fairly complicated, should be noted, and it will change the energy community map from year to year. Further definitions and details about these criteria will be included in the resource section for this video. But again, our goal with the interactive mapping tool was to translate this guidance into a map so that you don't have to consult multiple data sources. So let's say your site is located in an energy community according to our map. What do you have to do to show that you are eligible for the additional bonus credit? Well, you have to show that your project was in the right place at the right time. Right place just means that a majority of your project is located in an energy community. And there are 2 tests for establishing that. And by right time, we just mean that because energy community status can change from year to year, you have to document that the area your project is located in didn't stop being an energy community before you locked in eligibility. When this lock-in occurs can depend on if you're pursuing a production tax credit or an investment tax credit, but both credits allow you to lock in eligibility when you begin construction on a project, as has been defined in previous IRS guidance. Now, there are a lot of considerations for each project, and the begun construction test in particular is highly complicated. So instead of going into technical hypotheticals here, I'll just encourage you to reach out to the folks on this webinar if you have project-specific questions. And again, if you are interested in delving into further details, we'll include more of them in the resources section for this video. I'll now turn it over to my colleague, Michael Leggett, who will demonstrate our mapping tool and share more about how Ever.green can help those looking to buy and sell tax credits connect.
Thanks, Ben. Ever.green has been building a marketplace for tax credits, And as part of that, we've built a mapping tool to identify energy communities, as well as other location and non-location based incentives under the IRA. I'll show how this tool works in a minute, but first I want to speak to our important partnership with Baker Tilly. Baker Tilly brings a great deal of expertise around compliance and diligence and accurately quantifying tax credits sold in the Ever.green marketplace. We're engaged in a partnership to bring that expertise to the design of our marketplace and to the deals that occur there. Zooming out for a minute, our marketplace seeks to maximize the value and impact of tax credits and renewable energy certificates, or RECs, on new projects. We want to enable you to sell some or all of those tax credits insofar as you don't have the tax liability to use them yourself. So we seek to maximize the tax credits you get and sell them as is helpful, as well as maximize the impact and value of RECs on projects. We believe that companies will be a major player in buying transferable tax credits, as they already are today in REC markets. Once you've identified sites that potentially qualify and understand the requirements to comply with the regulations to maximize the credit value, these are steps our tools and Baker Tilly can help with. You may find yourself looking to sell tax credits or perhaps buy credits to further offset your own tax liability. Let's take a quick look at the mapping tool and marketplace. Here you see and if you go to Ever.green and click sign in, you'll find our tool, and you see I've actually already added a couple projects here. Once you've added projects, and you can see on the map in the darker areas that qualify for energy community and lighter areas that also qualify for some of the other environmental justice adders that Gideon spoke to. Once you've added a project, you can actually expand and see why it's qualified for each of these things, whether it was near a coal plant or coal mine that was retired or for other reasons. And you can go through the other details on the projects to understand the other adders and requirements to further increase the tax credit. If you want to sell the credit, you can actually continue into the sell credit section and actually continue with any of your projects and understand the requirements and other additional information that will be required to further due diligence on the projects and register the project in the marketplace, then list it for sale, and then once a match has been found, actually close that sale once the project is built and operational. Our marketplace facilitates the end-to-end process. We assist project owners in establishing eligibility for the energy community benefit to the IRS and prospective tax credit buyers by collecting and storing documentation showing the location of a project and the timing of beginning of construction and placement into service. We then match prospective buyers and sellers and provide form documentation to complete tax credit sales. In this way, we're aggregating demand to support new solar, wind, and other clean energy projects, bringing that to project developers, and verifying and quantifying the impact and handling the compliance and diligence around the tax credits.